Yes. Welcome to my ramblings on Tonga. Yes. I'm here in the beautiful Polynesian islands of Tonga, which was once home to some of the fiercest warriors in the whole of the Pacific, and is now home to some of the fiercest marauders of the ocean, which could potentially be to blame for almost half of total coral decline in the world, the crown of thorns starfish. Whilst here, I met up with VEPA, the Vava'u Environmental Protection Agency, one of the only environmental NGOs, the only environmental NGO in the whole of Tonga. Tongans, and especially Vava'uans, like lots of the islands I've passed through on the way through to the Pacific, live very hand to mouth, relying on the abundance of their islands for both food and livelihoods. For years this was sustainable, but now people are starting to find things very difficult. The waters are incredibly overfished, and when people go fishing, they're not just looking for 1 or 2 or 7 species. No, they fish 176 different species for food. And it's not just sort of money and food which is compromised with the overfishing, it's also community and family dynamics, with the men and women both travelling further and further out to catch the fish, compromising their safety massively. Therefore, it's in everyone's best interest to have healthy reefs, from a visitor's perspective, for conservation's sake perspective, and as Karen, the director of VEPA, put it, we want there to be more so people can have more. The people come first here. The first step for this is a Tonga-wide oceanic management plan covering 700,000 square kilometres of their EEZ, their exclusive economic zone, and they hope to have sort of 30% of this set aside for community-led MPAs, as well as no-take zones in all of these, and that's all to be implemented by the end of next year. Crazy goals. So how do crown of thorns fit in with all this? These guys are natural corallivores, sort of munching away on the coral, keeping the ecosystem in balance, sort of trimming down that fast-growing coral. But this is all fine if they're natural and not invasive, or if there isn't an outbreak. Karen says an outbreak would be when they see probably 20 in a 50 to 100 metre area while swimming, or if they see patches of white reef where these guys have definitely come through. Outbreaks, she says, generally occur after high rainfall events, and when all the rain washes all the nutrients off the land into the water. And this is made probably a lot worse by poor agricultural practices, pigs roaming around the area, and also poor infrastructure planning really, which on this instance is like all the drains and storm drains flow straight into the water. These nutrient-rich waters lead to plankton blooms, which then go to feed the larvae. This means that success rates and also cloning rates increase massively, meaning that you've got so many more of these things floating around, especially when each female can lay up to 100 million eggs a year. I know, on a healthy coral reef, usually they'll be able to deal with these events, and that's just the natural balance of it all. But in a changing world where high increasing ocean temperatures and acidification rates mean that bleaching events which can completely kill coral reefs are more and more common, considering big outbreaks of crown of thorns when each crown of thorn can sort of munch through 5 to 30 metres squared of coral every year, you've got a serious problem on your hands there. And this can massively take away the benefits of coral regrowth and fish abundance which you'd really hope to see from the protected areas that you're going to put in place. So these guys are big, like big. Some say they can get up to about 1 metre in diameter, which is massive, and you know why they need all that coral now to survive. So what they do is they just pick a nice spot, sit there, relax, throw the stomach out of the mouth, wrap it around the coral, sort of munch on all the tissue around it, and digest it all outside of their body. For this reason, when the guys at VEPA start to see the signs of an outbreak, they have to act. And interestingly, there's actually an outbreak now, and in 3 days a couple of weeks ago, the small team managed to remove 638 individuals, the biggest being 18 inches long. And so they were going out today and asked if I wanted to come along, join them, and see what it's all about, see how they remove them and the difference they're making on the reefs. When you go and remove them from the reef, you do have to be so careful how you grab them. Although my Tongan host said that him and his mates just throw them around at each other. I really hope they're talking about another species, because these guys have seriously poisonous spines and will leave your hand throbbing if you just get stung by them. So for us, it's a pair of high-tech barbecue tongs and a flour sack it is. Some say that the best methods are either stabbing them or injecting them. Injecting them, we don't really have, or they don't really have the means to do that on these islands, and stabbing them, you run the risk of them just spawning millions of things everywhere all over the water column, which you don't want. And even if you just chop off a leg, that's really bad, because these guys can just grow back off one leg. So this has been my introduction to the fierce crown of thorns marauders, which are native on a lot of these reefs but can be really dangerous when they are invasive species. So if you're out in the water and you see lots of them, probably don't go and do it yourself without the right equipment, but let someone know. Everyone can be a citizen scientist, and by telling someone, you could make a massive difference on the health of the coral reefs around you. Ramblings out.